The Xeraxian warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their hulls gleaming like polished obsidian against the starry backdrop. 17 vessels in total, each larger than anything humans had ever constructed for space travel. Their arrival sent emergency alerts blaring throughout Earth's defense network. Admiral Olivia Grant stood on the bridge of the EDF Resolute, her expression calm despite the gravity of the situation. At 53, with silver streaking her dark hair, Grant had spent 3 decades in Earth's defense forces. She never expected to be humanity's representative at first contact with an alien civilization. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper's fingers flew across his console. 17 vessels, Admiral. We're detecting energy readings off the charts. Their weapon systems appear to be dormant, but their shields are active. Open communications on all frequencies. The main view screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and elaborate ridges along its skull. Behind it stood others of its kind, manning what appeared to be a command center. "I am Fleet Commander Xar Thul of the glorious Xeraxian Empire," the alien announced. "We claim dominion over 70% of this galaxy. Your civilization has been monitored and deemed ready for integration. Surrender your planetary defenses and prepare for occupation." Grant's jaw tightened. "This is Admiral Olivia Grant of Earth Defense Fleet. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we do not surrender to threats. I suggest diplomatic discussions instead." The alien's expression shifted to something resembling amusement. "Primitive bipeds do not dictate terms to the Empire. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Resistance would result in unnecessary casualties." In the adjacent communication room, Ambassador Nathan Clark frantically researched everything Earth's telescopes had captured about this region of space. He rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, we need time. The database shows conflicts in the Orion sector. These may be expansionists who've conquered other worlds." Grant nodded. "Commander Xar Thul, we request 24 hours to consult with our global leadership." The alien commander laughed, a harsh sound that needed no translation. "You have 6 hours to prepare your surrender protocols. After that, we will begin systematic occupation of your orbital installations." The communication terminated abruptly. "They're advancing toward Mars, Admiral," Lieutenant Cooper reported. "Holding formation." Grant turned to her senior staff. "I want every defense satellite and orbital platform at full readiness. Activate the Quantum Shield Project." Science Officer Allison Wright stepped forward. "The QSP hasn't completed final testing. We can't guarantee." "We're out of options, Doctor. How many ships can we arm with the phase cannons?" 5, maybe 6 with emergency protocols." Grant nodded grimly. "Make it happen." While the bridge crew rushed to prepare Earth's defenses, Grant opened a private channel to Earth's Security Council. The 12 leaders of Earth's unified government looked back at her with expressions ranging from fear to determination. "They don't know about our quantum technology," Grant explained. "The Artemis mining incident forced us to develop defenses they couldn't possibly anticipate." Council Leader Jacobs nodded. "The Q-Tech remains our best-kept secret. If they're monitoring our communications, they'll only see conventional weapons. I recommend immediate deployment of our stealth fleet from the lunar base," Grant said, "and activation of the Mars defense grid." The Council approved unanimously. 6 hours later, the Xeraxian fleet had positioned itself between Earth and Mars, weapons systems now fully charged. Admiral Grant opened communications one final time. "Commander Xar Thul, this is your only warning. Leave our solar system within 24 hours, or we will be forced to defend ourselves. We will not ask twice." The Xeraxian commander's face filled the screen, mandibles clicking in what humans would later learn was their expression of derision. "Your pathetic species has already lost. You simply don't know it yet." "Remember," Grant replied softly, "we warned you to run." The communication ended, and humanity prepared for its first interstellar war. The Xerexian fleet launched their attack at dawn, Earth time. Massive energy beams tore through the Martian atmosphere, targeting the human defense stations on Olympus Mons and Valles Marineris. The stations erupted in explosions visible from Earth's observatories, bringing cheers to the Xerexian command deck. As expected, Commander HFY said, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. Their outposts fall like dust before the wind. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vreen, studied the sensor readings. Strange. We're detecting no life signs, but the installations were fully staffed according to our intelligence. Before HFY could respond, alarms blared across his flagship. Multiple small craft approaching from Mars shadow. An officer shouted, "They weren't there moments ago." Commander Daniel Ross led the first wave of Earth's stealth fighters, vessels coated in quantum reflective materials that made them virtually invisible until they deactivated their cloaking fields. 50 fighters swarmed from hidden bunkers beneath the Martian surface. "Remember your training," Ross told his pilots through the comm. "Phase through their shields on my mark." The Xerexian gunners fired desperately at the approaching human ships, but their targeting systems struggled to lock onto the erratically moving vessels. To their horror, the humans did something impossible. They passed directly through the Xerexian energy shields as if they weren't there. "Quantum phase engage," Ross said calmly as his fighter penetrated the shield of the nearest Xerexian cruiser. "Deploy disruptors." Each fighter released small devices that attached to the Xerexian hulls. These were Science Officer Allison Reich's creation, quantum disruptors that interfered with the neural network controlling Xerexian ships. Within seconds, 3 enemy vessels lost power, drifting helplessly. "Impossible." HFY roared as his viewscreen showed human fighters passing through supposedly impenetrable shields. "No species has quantum phase technology. It violates the laws of physics." On the EDF Resolute, Admiral Grant watched the battle unfold. Launch the main fleet, target their command vessels. Earth's larger ships emerged from hiding positions behind Luna and in Earth's Lagrange points. Unlike the fighters, these warships carried heavier weapons, including the experimental key cannons. "This can't be happening," Sub-Commander Vreen whispered as the sensors showed 20 human capital ships appearing seemingly from nowhere. The Empire's intelligence said these primitives had only chemical rockets and basic ion drives. The first key cannon fired, its beam distorting space-time itself as it sliced through a Xerexian destroyer. The enemy vessel didn't explode. It simply separated into perfect halves, cut more cleanly than any conventional weapon could achieve. "What manner of weapon is this?" HFY demanded as 3 more of his ships suffered the same fate. In the chaos, Commander Ross led a boarding party onto one of the disabled Xerexian cruisers. The human soldiers wore armor equipped with personal phase technology, allowing them to walk through walls and standard enemy defenses. The Xerexian crew, panicked and disoriented by the neural disruptors, offered little resistance. Captain Krelvox, commander of the cruiser, was captured alive. "How?" he asked as Ross secured him in restraints. "How did primitives like you defeat our technology? We've conquered 1,000 worlds with these ships." Ross smiled grimly. "You should have listened when we warned you to run." Within 3 hours, the battle was over. Of the 17 Xerexian warships, 9 were destroyed, 5 captured, and 3, including HFY's flagship, escaped into hyperspace. On the Resolute, Admiral Grant received the preliminary reports. "Minimal casualties on our side. 4 fighters lost, 2 capital ships damaged. Mars defenses operational again." Grant nodded. "They'll be back with reinforcements. This was just their scouting force." Lieutenant Cooper looked up from his console. "Admiral, we're detecting transmissions from the retreating ships. They're sending warnings throughout their empire." "Good," Grant said quietly. "Let them come prepared next time. They'll need it." The escape of Commander HFY's flagship had consequences. Within 2 weeks, a massive Xeraxian armada arrived at the edges of the solar system. Unlike the first attack force, this fleet came prepared for war. 300 warships, including 5 planet-killer dreadnoughts. They've learned, Admiral Grant said, studying the holographic display of the enemy fleet. They're keeping their distance and deploying jamming fields to counter our stealth systems. Earth's military council knew they couldn't win a direct battle against such overwhelming numbers. Instead, they implemented their contingency plan, allowing the enemy to advance while evacuating key personnel from the outer colonies. The Xeraxians struck quickly, capturing the mining colonies on Titan, Europa, and Ganymede. Millions of human colonists suddenly found themselves under alien occupation. Lieutenant Eric Murphy had been stationed on Titan when the Xeraxians arrived. Rather than surrender, he and 200 fellow soldiers disappeared into the vast underground tunnel networks that honeycombed Saturn's largest moon. They control the surface, but the tunnels are ours, Murphy told the assembled resistance fighters. Men and women who had been miners, engineers, and scientists just days before now clutched improvised weapons and captured Xeraxian arms. We know this moon better than they ever will. The resistance fighters began striking at night, using the thick methane atmosphere as cover. They would emerge from hidden entrances, disable Xeraxian equipment, and vanish before the aliens could respond. On Europa, Dr. Rebecca Palmer, a microbiologist trapped during the invasion, made a discovery in her hidden laboratory that would change the course of the war. Their life support systems contain biological components, she explained to her small team. I've isolated the pathways. We can create a virus that will shut down their systems without harming the physical infrastructure. While Palmer worked, Sergeant Amy Rodriguez organized the miners on Ganymede into an effective fighting force. The massive mining equipment, designed to drill through ice and rock, became weapons of war. Drilling vehicles were modified to tunnel under Xeraxian outposts and collapse them from below. They expect us to fight like soldiers, Rodriguez told her people. So we'll fight like miners instead. The Xeraxian occupation forces, expecting a conventional resistance, found themselves facing an enemy that struck from unexpected angles, used unfamiliar tactics, and seemed to vanish into the very moons they were trying to control. Captain Lorith, the Xeraxian commander on Titan, reported growing losses to his superiors. These humans, they don't fight according to any military doctrine we understand. They avoid direct confrontation. They strike our supply lines, our communications, our life support. Then they disappear before we can respond. On Earth, Admiral Grant received encrypted communications from the resistance movements. Keep pressure on them, she ordered. We need time to prepare our counteroffensive. The occupied moons became a nightmare for the Xeraxian forces. Lieutenant Murphy's fighters would appear suddenly from hidden tunnels, place quantum disruptors on Xeraxian equipment, and vanish before the aliens could respond. Dr. Palmer's virus spread through the Xeraxian life support systems, causing their bases to shut down unexpectedly. Sergeant Rodriguez's miners collapsed entire Xeraxian outposts by undermining their foundations. I don't understand, Captain Lorith told his second-in-command after losing another patrol. Our intelligence said humans were predictable, that they would meet force with force. Intelligence was wrong, the officer replied. These humans, they're adaptable. They learn our patterns faster than we learn theirs. 3 months into the occupation, the Xeraxians had lost nearly 40% of their ground forces on the moons. Their carefully established supply lines were in chaos. Their command structures were compromised by human infiltrators. Commander Ektar Thol, watching from his flagship, grew increasingly concerned. We control the space around their planet, he told his war council. Yet somehow we are losing the ground war. How can primitives with inferior technology inflict such damage? The answer came in a transmission from Captain Lorith. We did not invade their territory, Commander. We invaded their home. While the resistance fighters kept the Xeraxians occupied on the outer colonies, Earth's military leaders prepared their most daring operations. The aliens controlled the major space lanes, but they had yet to encounter humanity's true ingenuity. Captain William Hayes sat in the cramped cockpit of his infiltration craft, approaching a Ziraxian patrol vessel. His ship appeared to be nothing more than space debris, its hull modified to resemble damaged alien technology. Distance to target, 100 meters, his navigation system reported. Hayes guided his vessel toward the Ziraxian patrol ship's drone bay. The aliens used automated repair drones to fix external damage, and Hayes had studied their patterns for weeks. Matching rotation. Now, he whispered, though no one could hear him in the vacuum of space. His craft drifted into the drone bay alongside returning repair units. Once inside, Hayes activated a device developed by Earth's top scientists, a neural pattern emulator that made Ziraxian systems identify his infiltration module as one of their own drones. Inside the ship, Hayes connected to the drone control network and uploaded a special program. Within minutes, he'd gained control of all 30 repair drones on the vessel. Command: this is Hayes. Phase 1 complete. Across the Ziraxian fleet, similar infiltrations were taking place. 12 human operatives, each controlling a set of drones, waited for the signal. On Earth, Chief Engineer Patricia Sanchez supervised the final test of her power core converter. The Ziraxian cores operate on principles similar to our quantum fluctuation engines, she explained to Admiral Grant, but their containment fields have a fatal flaw. They can be inverted. Grant nodded, and the result. The core becomes an explosive device powerful enough to disable an entire warship. How many can we convert? Grant asked. Every drone they have can be modified to perform the conversion. The Admiral's eyes widened. Their entire fleet uses drones. Sanchez smiled grimly. Exactly. The order was given. Captain Hayes and the other infiltrators activated their captured drones simultaneously. The repair units, now following human commands, spread throughout the Ziraxian fleet, accessing engineering sections and power plants. Commander Tarful was in his war room when the alarms began. Multiple system failures across the fleet. An officer reported, panic in his voice. Our repair drones they're doing something to the power cores. Before Exarthol could respond, the first explosions began. Across his fleet, power cores destabilized, causing cascading system failures. Ships didn't explode outright. That would have killed too many, but they were effectively crippled. How is this possible? Exarthol demanded. How could they access our systems? The answer arrived in a transmission broadcast across all Ziraxian frequencies. Your technology is impressive, Commander, Admiral Grant's voice said calmly. But you fail to consider one crucial fact. Humans don't follow the rules. While the Ziraxian fleet struggled with disabled systems, Earth launched its counter-offensive. Smaller, more maneuverable human ships darted between the massive alien vessels. What the humans lacked in size, they made up for in speed and adaptability. Their ships are faster than our targeting systems can track, a Ziraxian weapons officer complained. Their attack patterns make no sense, another added. They're not following any logical formation. This was by design. Earth's fleet commanders had studied Ziraxian battle doctrines recovered from captured ships. The aliens fought according to strict rules and patterns, mathematical perfection that became predictable once understood. Humans did not fight this way. They used irregular patterns, sudden changes in direction, and improvised tactics that confounded the rigid Ziraxian military doctrine. In the Ziraxian Imperial Council, reports of the battle caused concern among the highest officials. If these humans can neutralize our technological advantage, one counselor warned, what's to prevent them from teaching other subjugated species to do the same? The fear spread quickly, not just of humans themselves, but of what the High Command was now calling the human contagion. The dangerous idea that the mighty Ziraxian Empire could be resisted successfully. Commander Exarthol, watching his disabled fleet drift helplessly, finally understood Admiral Grant's warning from their first encounter. They should have run when they had the chance. The crippled Xeraxian fleet drifted in the void between Jupiter and Saturn, their ships running on emergency power as repair crews struggled to undo the damage caused by their own reprogrammed drones. Commander Gagar Full faced a difficult decision. Retreat and admit defeat, or call for reinforcements and risk further embarrassment. In the end, pride won out. XR Full sent an emergency transmission to Xeraxia Prime, the Imperial capital 20 light-years from Earth. His message downplayed the humans' technological capabilities while emphasizing their savage nature and the threat they posed to Imperial stability. 3 days later, the Imperial High Command responded. Reinforcements would arrive within 2 weeks. Until then, Xarful was to maintain his position and prevent humans from advancing beyond their home system. On the EDF Resolute, Admiral Grant gathered her senior staff for the most important briefing of the war. "We've intercepted and decoded their transmissions," she explained, gesturing to the star chart displaying the Xeraxian Empire's territory. "We now know the locations of their key military installations, supply depots, and command centers. They expect us to stay here and defend Earth," she continued. "They don't believe we have the capability or the courage to take the fight to them." Major Kyle Bennett, commander of Earth's Special Forces, leaned forward. "My teams are ready, Admiral. We've studied the captured Xeraxian ships and can operate their systems now." Grant nodded. "Then it's time for Operation Thunderbolt. We'll strike directly at the heart of their empire while they're gathering forces to attack us." Dr. Vincent Morgan, head of the Psionics Research Division, cleared his throat. "There's something else you should know, Admiral. We've analyzed the brain patterns of our Xeraxian prisoners. Their species has limited telepathic abilities, nothing powerful, but enough to sense emotions and basic thoughts at close range. It explains how they coordinate so effectively in battle. And why humans confuse them," Grant realized. "Our thought patterns are alien to them." "Precisely," Morgan agreed. "I've developed a psychic shield that can block their abilities completely. Our soldiers will be ghosts to them, not just invisible to sensors, but to their extra senses as well." The plan took shape quickly. While Earth's main fleet would remain to defend the solar system, 3 strike teams would use captured Xeraxian vessels to penetrate deep into enemy territory. Their targets: the Central Command Station at Vega, the main shipyards at Proxima Centauri, and the Defense Network headquarters at Bernard Star. Major Bennett would lead the strike team to Bernard Star, the most crucial target, as it controlled the defense systems for a dozen core worlds of the Empire. 5 days later, 3 Xeraxian cruisers left the solar system, their transponders identifying them as damaged vessels returning for repairs. Inside, human crews wore Xeraxian environment suits modified for human physiology. On their temples, they wore Dr. Morgan's psychic shield devices, small discs that scrambled their brain patterns, making them undetectable to Xeraxian telepathy. The journey took 6 days using the aliens' faster-than-light drive. When they arrived at Bernard Star, the disguised ships transmitted the proper security codes and received immediate clearance to dock. "They don't suspect a thing," Bennett told his team as they prepared to board the massive defense station. "Remember your training. Move like them, stay silent, and let the translator devices do the talking." The boarding went smoothly. Small teams of humans, disguised as Xeraxian maintenance crews, spread throughout the station. They placed quantum disruptors at key junctions, uploaded viruses to the main computers, and identified the command center. Bennett himself led the assault on the command deck. When the doors slid open, the Xeraxian officers turned in surprise, their telepathy suddenly alerting them that these weren't their kind, despite appearances. But the warning came too late. Bennett's team had already activated the neural disruptors, paralyzing the command staff instantly. "Defense network control secured," Bennett reported. "Beginning Phase 2. Across Xeraxian space, defense systems suddenly went offline. Planetary shields powered down. Automated defense platforms stopped responding to commands. And on hundreds of subjugated worlds, The populations of a dozen alien species watched in amazement as their oppressors' technology failed all at once. The counter-invasion had begun. The Xeraxian Empire had never experienced such chaos. For 3 centuries, they had expanded unchallenged across the galaxy, conquering species after species with their superior technology and rigid military doctrine. Now their carefully constructed dominion was crumbling before an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. With their defense network compromised, Earth's strike teams moved to Phase 2 of Operation Thunderbolt. Major Bennett's forces at Bernard's Star transmitted shutdown codes to Xeraxian military installations across 12 star systems. The other strike teams reported similar success at their targets. On Xeraxia Prime, Emperor Dravkoreth summoned his Imperial Council in emergency session. How can a single species from a backwater planet cause such devastation? He demanded, his normally blue complexion darkened to purple with rage. High General Voskera, the Empire's senior military commander, could offer no satisfying answer. They do not fight according to any recognized doctrine, Your Majesty. They adapt too quickly. They use our own technology against us in ways we never anticipated. They must be stopped, the Emperor shouted. I want every available warship to converge on Earth immediately. But the order came too late. General Laura Carter, commanding Earth's main fleet, had already launched the decisive offensive. While the Xeraxians focused on the human strike teams, Carter led 200 ships directly toward Xeraxia Prime. The Emperor is recalling ships from throughout the Empire, Carter's intelligence officer reported. They'll outnumber us 5-1 when they arrive. Carter nodded calmly. We'll be inside their defense perimeter before that happens, and we have help they don't know about yet. The help came in the form of Commander Peter Jackson's diplomatic mission. For weeks, Jackson had been making covert contact with representatives of species conquered by the Xeraxians, the Nelvari with their crystalline bodies and light-based technology, the Dreek Methan brothers whose mathematical skills surpassed even the most advanced human computers, the Volturi whose shape-shifting abilities had been suppressed by Xeraxian control implants. The Xeraxians rule through fear and technology, Jackson had told them. We can disable their technology. Can your people overcome their fear? The answer came as General Carter's fleet approached Xeraxia Prime. Throughout the Empire, the subjugated species rose up simultaneously. Nelvari lightships emerged from hiding, disrupting Xeraxian communications. Dreek mathematicians disabled encryption systems. Volturi infiltrators removed their control implants and assumed the forms of Xeraxian commanders, issuing contradictory orders. Multiple uprisings reported across all sectors. A panicked aide informed Emperor Dravkoreth, our forces are unable to respond effectively. The command structure is breaking down. The Emperor turned to High General Voskera. How did they coordinate this? How could primitive humans unite species that have hated each other for centuries? The answer came from an unexpected source, a transmission broadcasting on all frequencies throughout the Empire. Quantum communications specialist Olivia Patel had hacked into the Imperial network from one of the captured command stations. People of the galaxy, her message began, transmitted in all languages of the conquered species. The Xeraxian Empire has told you that humans are primitive savages. They've hidden the truth about us because they fear it. Humans do not seek to conquer. We seek to cooperate. We do not demand submission. We offer alliance. The broadcast continued, showing images of Earth, its diverse ecosystems, its varied cultures, its scientific achievements. It showed humans working together despite differences, solving problems through cooperation rather than force. This is what terrifies the Emperor, Patel's voice continued. Not our weapons, but our ideas. The idea that different species can work together as equals. The idea that diversity brings strength, not weakness. As the broadcast spread across Xeraxian territory, military vessels began breaking formation. Some continued toward Earth as ordered. Others moved to protect their homeworlds from the spreading rebellion. Many simply powered down their weapons, their crews unwilling to continue fighting. The Xerexian Empire, which had stood for 3 centuries through military might and rigid control, began to fracture from within. On Xerexia Prime, Emperor Dravkorith watched in horror as General Carter's fleet entered orbit around his homeworld, accompanied by ships of a dozen formerly subjugated species. "Your choice is simple," Carter's transmission stated. "Surrender or witness the end of your empire today." Emperor Dravkorith stood in his throne room as the human delegation entered. For the first time in the 300-year history of the Xerexian Empire, foreign troops walked the halls of the imperial palace. The emperor's skin had faded from its normal vibrant blue to a pale gray, the Xerexian sign of defeat. Ambassador Nathan Clark led the human delegation, accompanied by Admiral Grant and representatives from 7 formerly subjugated species. They walked calmly, showing neither fear nor arrogance. "Emperor Dravkorith," Clark began, his translator converting his words to perfect Xerexian, "we come to negotiate peace terms." The emperor gestured weakly. "What terms could there be? You have destroyed our fleet. You have turned our subjects against us. You have proven your superiority." Clark shook his head. "Not superiority. Difference. Humans don't seek to replace your empire with our own. We propose something new, a galactic alliance of free worlds." Over the next 6 hours, they outlined the framework for this alliance. Each species would maintain sovereignty over their homeworlds. Shared technologies would benefit all members. Military forces would protect the whole, not control it. Trade would flow freely between worlds. "This is not conquest," Admiral Grant explained. "This is cooperation." The Xerexian ministers were suspicious. "Why would you offer such generous terms?" one asked. "You could destroy us completely." "Because that's not who we are," Clark replied simply. "Humans learned long ago that true strength comes from unity, not dominance." As news of the peace negotiations spread, celebrations erupted across 1,000 worlds. Species that had suffered under Xerexian rule for generations suddenly found themselves free. Ships that had been part of the Imperial fleet were recommissioned under the banner of the new alliance. 3 days later, Emperor Dravkorith signed the Treaty of Xerexia Prime, formally dissolving the Empire and establishing the Galactic Alliance of Free Worlds. As his final act as emperor, he removed his imperial crown and placed it in a museum as a reminder of the past. 1 month after the signing, Admiral Grant addressed the first gathering of the Alliance Council on Neutral Territory, a space station constructed at the midpoint between Earth and Xerexia Prime. "We stand at the beginning of a new era," she told the assembled representatives of 28 species. "Humans are newcomers to this galactic community. We do not presume to lead it. We offer only this promise. We will defend the freedom of all worlds as fiercely as we defended our own." The former Xerexian High General Voskera, now serving as his people's representative, approached Grant after the ceremony. "I still do not understand," he admitted. "How did your species, with no previous space combat experience, defeat our empire so thoroughly?" Grant smiled. "Because you expected us to fight like you, to follow rules and patterns. Humans have never been good at following rules." 6 months passed. The alliance grew stronger as more worlds joined voluntarily. The former Imperial Palace on Xerexia Prime became the center for interspecies cooperation, where scientists from dozens of worlds shared knowledge freely. In a laboratory within the center, Dr. Rebecca Palmer worked alongside a Xerexian biologist named Krell Mora. Together, they developed treatments for diseases that had plagued both their species. "It is strange," Krell Mora commented one day. "A year ago, we were trying to conquer your world. Now we work together as if we had always been allies." Palmer smiled. "That's humanity's greatest strength. We forget our enemies quickly when they become friends." On the station's observation deck, Ambassador Clark watched ships from 20 different worlds docking and departing, commerce and cooperation replacing conquest and control. "We warned them to run," he murmured to himself, remembering Admiral Grant's words from the first Xeraxian encounter. But I'm glad they didn't listen. We all have so much more to gain this way. Below him, the first class of the Alliance Academy graduated, young officers from all species, trained to work together. Among them stood humans and Xeraxians side by side, former enemies now comrades, their faces turned toward the stars and the shared future that awaited them all.